Hi everyone and welcome to Festive Fridays. This is a new series where I will be posting a Christmas project every Friday until Christmas. The projects can be cards, they can be tags, art journals, mixed media projects, whatever inspires me every week. So I'm starting the series with the card today. And for that I will be playing with lots of ephemeras. So I have here 2 packs from my latest release, Christmas Plus. These are the ones that include lots of frames and another one that includes many different tickets. Both those packs are great because they have neutral colors and they can be used not only for Christmas but for every project pretty much. Especially if you want to create clusters, they make any cluster look fuller. So I have already picked a few of the tickets and one frame that I can use to create my cluster, and then from this ephemera pack, which is from a Stamperia collection which is called Winter Valley, I'm going to use my focal points. There are so many different elements here that you can use as your focal points. I'm going with a lovely deer for this card, but the design of the card is made in such a way that you can use inside the frame any focal point that you like. And you see here I'm just playing with the ephemeras. However, here is the little deer that I picked as my focal point. And this is the paper pad from the same collection, Winter Valley, where I got the ephemeras from. I'm going to quickly browse through the papers so you can take a look. There is always a paper where there are focal points that you can cut out, and always the back looks like a background paper. So always an A side and a B side, and lots of elements to fuzzy cut and use as focal points. However, for my card design today, I'm trying to find something for my background, and I'm going to show you what I picked. This is one paper that gives you lots of cards, but the back is quite neutral, so I'm going to use one of those. And of course, with every Stamperia paper pad, the last page is a cut apart page where you can find many of the elements that you can find in the ephemeras, but you have to fuzzy cut them. So I'm going to use this as my background. This is where I'm going to build everything on top. And I don't know if you can see that through the camera, but although the background is quite neutral in color, there is a snowbank at the bottom, which I'm going to use to place my deer on top. Now the ephemeras do have adhesive at the back, so you can actually peel them off and stick them down. However, for my card today, I want to build up some dimension. That's why instead of peeling them and sticking them down, I'm going to use foam tape at the back. Now, if you are wondering, I am back from my long summer holidays. I do this long break every year. It really helps my mojo and my creativity since I create so much during the year. And staying away from my craft room really is a must every summer. So this is where I'm going to nest my focal point, and I made sure that you can see the snowbank at the bottom. You can also have the deer coming out of the window, so some of it is behind the window and some of it is on top of it. I feel like it always makes the composition look more interesting. And again, for the deer at the back, I'm going to use some foam tape so that I can pop it on top of my little frame there. And again, remember, you can recreate the exact same design and use a different focal point inside that frame. Also, this card design can be used for winter cards as well as Christmas cards, depending on the sentiment that you choose to play with. Now I'm preparing the background where I'm going to stick the cluster on. This is a white panel that's slightly smaller than the standard card. The ink color that I'm using is Aquamarine from my latest release of dye inks with Stamperia, one of my favorite colors for sure, and I'm just applying the color really lightly with my blending brush. I like to apply a light application, and if I need to oversaturate, I can go over it again and again. This way I avoid having any splotches, and also notice that I'm not going to cover up the whole panel. I like to have lighter and darker areas, and all the way to the edges I leave it white. I also love splatters, that's why with the same ink pad I applied a little bit of ink on my glass mat, then some water, and with a very thin brush I'm going to add some splatters on my background. And of course you can do that with white, which is going to read as snow, but of course splatters are completely optional, not everybody loves them. So now it's time to create my composition, and you see here I have picked some of the tickets and other ephemeras from my new ephemera pack. So just go ahead, audition all the ephemeras, and once you are happy with the composition, you can always peel them off and stick them down. You see they are stickers, however you can use foam tape if you want to add some dimension on some of them, or even use glue if you don't want to bother trying to peel them off. Now this little element was the one that made me pick the color for the background, so I wanted to match the color with this shade of green, so the Aquamarine Dye Ink Pad was the perfect match. Now I'm going to build up on two corners my ephemeras, this way I have kind of a diagonal composition which is always pleasing to the eye. And you see for the main frame I didn't use foam tape at the back, I already have dimension on this element, so I can just stick it down with glue. Then to make my composition fuller, I'm going to do a little bit of fuzzy cutting from this Collectables paper pad, which is from the same collection again, and I'm going to fuzzy cut a few berries. Also notice that the ones that I chose to fuzzy cut have the color leaf that matches perfectly with the little green ticket as well as the aquamarine background, so I feel like everything kind of comes together lovely. A big bonus of using fuzzy cut images from the Collectables pad is that they are front and back, which means that you can use them facing either way, left or right. In this case it doesn't really matter since it is just foliage, but in other compositions when you have to use, for example, a deer that is facing on the other side, it is really handy. Another tip that I can give you is that when I used glue at the back of my main frame, I didn't add glue all the way to the edges. This gives me the opportunity to tuck things underneath, as you can see right now. I can always go back at the end and add a touch of glue if I need to on the edges. However, it is really handy to know that I can tuck things underneath and I can build up my composition, make it look fuller. Since creating full compositions is not something that you can plan ahead, so what I'm doing is just tucking ephemeras or sticking them on top, and at the same time I'm trying to make sure that it is nicely balanced in terms of shapes as well as in terms of colors. And I'm happy with how that looks, so I'm going to add a dab of glue underneath the main focal point. I'm not planning to tuck anything underneath anymore, so I need to make sure that it doesn't lift. And of course you can stop here, the card looks beautiful as it is, however I want to add something extra. These are the decorative chips, these are actually laser cut paper, that they are kind of dimensional but they are quite thin, so that you can definitely use them on top of your cards. You can just pop them out and they will separate. Just because these designs are very delicate, I'm using a craft knife to make sure that I cut out any tabs before I pull them out. And then of course you can always use your scissors and cut them in half so that you can use them in more than one places. To stick them down, all you need to use is just glue, and they are going to stay put with no issues at all. I'm using my matte glue, so if I make a little bit of a mess, it's not going to show at all when it is dry. And of course you can color them, you can use your alcohol markers to color them. You can also emboss them, so you can use glitter embossing powder on top of them and they are going to look just beautiful. However, I went more for a neutral look and feel for this card, that's why I'm not going to do anything on top of them. I love the color as it is for this composition and I feel like it stands out beautifully. As my sentiment, I'm going to use For You, which comes from the same decorative chips. And of course, since I chose to go with For You, it can definitely be a card for pretty much any occasion. It can be a winter card, a Christmas card. I can even use it for a winter birthday. So now let's see a new product in action, again from my latest collection. I'm going to use the contouring liner. The first time you use it, just unscrew the cap and poke a hole. It has a very fine tip which is going to allow you to create details, to create the borders, to follow the lines of the design. You can do dots. I'm going to do dots for this project, which is going to read as snow. And the color I'm using is Iridescent. You will be able to find this product in 4 different colors. The beauty of having this product in a tube means that it's not going to dry on you, just always put the cap back on, and at the same time you will be able to use the whole product all the way to the end. It's not a bottle that makes it really hard to squeeze out any leftover product inside. This one dries quite quickly, however you need to leave it to air dry, and of course it really depends on the amount of product that you squeeze out. So what I'm doing here is adding some highlights on the leaves, on the berries, here and there on the clusters, and of course I'm going to add dots of snow at the center of my composition, just behind the deer. I also went through my stash and I found a cardstock that matches the color of my Aquamarine ink blend, and you can see I have a lovely border all around my composition now, and all I have to do is to just stick it on top of a pre-folded white card that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. You can see here some close-up photos where you can see all the details and the dimension on the clusters. Just like always, you will find the full list of all the supplies that I use down below in the description area. Products from my latest collection are now shipping to online stores. They may appear out of stock, but give it a couple of days and you will find them all available. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope that you had fun and that you got inspired, and I'll see you all next time.